Hello and welcome to WKNC's official sports podcast, In the Den. Today we're going to be doing our football deep dive. We'll be going into the previous season and this upcoming one. We'll be going over the Tobacco Road rivalry and the last time NC State has won it. And we'll be finishing up with all of the previous NC State bowl games after their last win, just to kind of point out some trends that could be a problem in this upcoming season. So get your headphones on, get buckled up, and let's get right to it. All right. Entering this season, NC State has gone unranked to finish 6-7 and 3-5 in the conference. A bowl loss to ECU gave them that losing record. The development of CJ Bailey began early, but with Casey Concepcion and Justin Jolie being kind of the biggest part of the pass and production in the offense. Running game has kind of been jumping around through players, but I think the most notable guy was Hollywood Smothers, especially with his performance during the bowl game. The poor defense and not a great running game kept NC State from being competitive. They were bottom in total yards given up and second to last in points given up, second only to Stanford, a team that we blew out. Offensive coordinator Robert Ane was fired, and defensive coordinator Tony Gibson was hired by Marshall to be their head coach. They'd be replaced by quarterbacks coach Kurt Roper and former Eagles linebacker coach DJ Elliott. With DJ Elliott, the 3-3-5 defensive front is now going to be abandoned for a hybrid 3-4 front with 3 linebackers, 3 defensive linemen, and a utility edge player who can do both roles. Notable returner on the defensive line is Trevally Price, who is currently the player with the most amount of sacks on the roster with 3.5. Leading tacklers Sean Brown and Devon Betty also gives some familiarity to the defensive line linebacker front. Some notable defensive players that are leaving include Aiden White, who is going to Jacksonville, David Van, who has graduated but hasn't found a home yet, and the majority of our questionable secondary, including Bishop Fitzgerald, who transferred to USC, Tamarcus Cooley, transferring to LSU, former 4-star Brandon Siss, who transferred to South Carolina, and some starting linebackers, the starting linebacker Kamal Bonner, who is going to Miami, Florida. Some newcomers include 4-star cornerback Jaron Sensabaugh from Missouri, cornerback Brian Nelson II from the University of North Texas, defensive tackle starter for Utah State Cian Salone, and backup linebacker Sterling Dixon from Alabama and Joseph Adedare from Texas Tech. On the offensive front, Kurt Rober is kind of a safe choice as he will carry over Dave Doran's offensive scheme, but I think it would be important to have development for CJ Bailey with that hybrid offense. Running back Hollywood Smothers, tight end Justin Jolie, and receiver Noah Rogers gives Bailey some previous experience in that offense that will make for a strong supporting cast on the weapons front. Their offensive line gave up 2.15 sacks per game, which is about average in the entire NCAA. I can't really find like an average, but on the NCAA website for statistics, they'll have NC State as 2.15 sacks given up per game, which is roughly middle of the pack. Pun not intended. Dawson Jaramillo returns and will hopefully take over at left tackle. And guard Jacarius Peak will also return. However, we did lose a good amount of offensive players. Anthony Velton was drafted by the Packers. Casey Concepcion transferred to Texas A&M. Which, I mean, that sucks seeing Casey Concepcion go. But that's not even the biggest tragedy that's happened to NC State in the year 2025. I mean, Bill Belichick's now with UNC. And then what happened with Grayson McCall. Kendrick Raphael transfers to Cal And running back Jordan Waters goes to the Rams, which leaves a wide open running back depth chart that is headlined by Hollywood Smothers and nobody else. Zeke Correll, our center, goes to the Vikings. Timothy McKay, offensive guard, goes to the Commanders. And Dakari Collins transfers to Louisville. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 offensive starters that have left. Just 4 that are returning, a bunch of question marks. Some incoming offensive linemen include Jalen Grant from Purdue, Teague Anderson, and tackle from Utah State, and Brock Stooks, an inner offensive lineman from North Carolina A&T. Cody Hardy, a tight end, transfers from Elon to back up Justin Jolly most likely, or he could take over in the future as Justin Jolly's looking to build his draft stock. Some notable receivers and running backs who could come and fill in future spots from what I've seen is Jonathan Paylor, Jarrell Boulder, who I mentioned in a previous episode, and Terrell Anderson, as well as Colson Fields, who are your running back options. So notable opponents, they'll be going at runner-up Notre Dame, road trip at Wake Forest and Duke, back-to-back. ECU coming to town to open the season, and what I think will be a really good competitive game is Georgia Tech visiting. So that's kind of a brief preview of the season. I won't be doing more. I'll be doing more in-depth game-to-game matchups heading into the season, which again is still about 3 weeks away. So which probably get like 2 more episodes after this one before we start doing the football deep dives, game by game. How that format's going to work is we're going to have every show will be kind of pushed to Wednesday. I think that's kind of a good time period between like giving a review of the previous game, what I thought about it, how things went, and then giving a little bit on the future matchup, which I think I'll just be kind of going position by position just to see what matches up the strongest and what I think the score is going to be. And I'll probably be doing a little bits here and there just for the other sports, but I think football, it's a bigger sport. It's going to get a lot of focus. All right, coming up next, we'll be going over the Tobacco Road rivalry. I'll be explaining what it is and the last time NC State has officially won it, and if they could this year. All right, so one big thing that isn't really talked about with NC State and football is their rivalry with the other North Carolina college football teams, especially Wake Forest, Duke, and UNC. While they don't play them every season, it's always a big highlight to watch NC State play those opponents. And if they could beat all 3, they can win a Tobacco Road rivalry title. Which, if you don't really understand by now, it's the title given to the team with the most wins against each other between NC State, Wake Forest, UNC, and Duke. So it's basically like usually every team will be able to play against each other once, and whoever has the highest record against those people will get the title, so to speak. I don't think there's an official... Let me look it up. I don't believe there's an official trophy for it. I think it's just bragging rights. Yeah, it's there's no title. It's just a bragging rights thing. It's similar to how I think it's called a President's Cup, I think, for Air Force, Navy, and Army. However, a lot of Tobacco Road titles come with asterisks due to not playing every single game. For some reason, because of scheduling inconsistencies, there are a lot of seasons where players and teams just don't get to face each other, but a title still has to be given, so to speak. I guess that wasn't an issue last season since Duke won it outright, but it was a season before where even though every game but one was played with UNC and Wake Forest, but Duke technically won the title due to head-to-head tiebreaker. Oh well. But the last time NC State won theirs, it was 2002. So going a little bit into 2002, Chuck Amato as the head coach and Philip Rivers as the quarterback. NC State's odds were really good to win a title outright. Paired up with star receiver Jericho Cotchery, freshman running back T.A. McClendon. I mean, those two combined with Philip Rivers made for a very strong offense in the ACC, with one of the best secondaries in the nation led by Torrey Holt's brother Terrence, Marcus Hudson, and Rod Johnson. Lamont Reed and the special teams produced blocked kicks, and touchdowns for the special teams. They opened the season unranked, but quickly find themselves ranked 19 with all the open and softies. They head into their first tobacco road game against Wake Forest. Wake Forest was early in the Jim Grobe years. They were far from amazing, but not terrible. They entered the season having gone 6-5 and entering the game 1-1. With star running back Terrence Williams and linebacker Kellen Brantley, there was optimism for Wake Forest traveling to Raleigh, but those hopes would be dashed when quarterbacks James McPherson faced 5 sacks and an interception thrown to Terrence Holt. Despite a sloppy first half for NC State, McClendon would rush for 2 and Rivers would throw to Cotchery for 1 touchdowns to help give NC State command a lead, which was clinched by a scoop and score from Sean Price, who had been commanding the momentum for Wake Forest offensively with a bunch of quarterback pressures and and from what we can tell, sacks. I haven't really been able to get good sack recordings because for some reason, even up to like 2002, the data on Football Reference is not amazing for sacks. 32-12, NC State University. Yes, I'm sure I could probably find footage for the whole game. At UNC, Darian Durant was the star quarterback for UNC at the time. They won 8 of the last 9 competitions against NC State. But I think things were going to change with in UNC's most crowded home game with 60,250 people. NC State was not going to let themselves fall behind. They focused and dominated the run game during the second half after a slow first half again. Rivers got a QB sneak, followed by a fumble recovery from linebacker D'Antonio Burnett that helped McClendon score one of his 2 touchdowns that day. He and Josh Brown would combine for 252 yards and 3 touchdowns, while Sean Price was also able to get an interception. NC State was able to humiliate UNC 34-17, all mostly thanks to their running game. And now for the last game, against Duke. I guess there isn't really much to talk about with this Duke performance. Duke would finish last in, I guess a little spoiler there. The Carl Franks years were tough for Duke, especially in 2001 where they finished 0-11 and would face NC State with a 2-5 record. However, this was NC State's closest match. Rivers would throw a touchdown to Sterling Hicks and run it in early on himself, but Duke threatened a comeback with 2 field goals and a touchdown run from Chris Douglas. However, NC State clinches the title with a touchdown to Jericho Cotchery just before the 2-minute warning, and Duke could not catch up. That was kind of a theme for them this season, as they would, as I mentioned, finish last with an 0-3 record. UNC would finish third with a 1-2 record, Wake Forest second with 2-1, and NC State would reach as high as number 10 overall, but would finish 4-3 in the conference, 11-3 overall, which includes a bowl win versus number 11 Notre Dame in the Gator Bowl, finishing ranked 12th overall. As you know, Phil Rivers would have one more season with NC State before he was drafted into the league. Let me see where everyone else went. I think Jericho Cotchery, he's currently a head coach at Limestone University. and was drafted in the 4th round to the Jets. Sean Price. I'm not sure where Terrence Holt went. I think, yeah, Sean Price, who, not that Sean Price, who went to Pacific. I think those two are kind of the biggest highlights for the team overall. Usually I do kind of where they are they now segment, but I guess not all of them have stuff. Like T.A. McClendon didn't even get into the league, but he did get first team All ACC in that 2002 season. But I think I'll wrap it up there. And for our last segment, we'll be going over every NC State bowl game since 2017, like a little mini preview of what happened, how the opposing team won, and what kind of themes that I see with NC State and how that could influence this upcoming season. All right, let's get to it. All right, for our last segment, we'll be going over, as I mentioned, all the bowl games since 2017. We start with 2018. I'm sure you remember from our last episode that is uploaded at the same time as this episode. This is our last career games for Garrett Bradbury, center, linebacker Jermaine Pratt, quarterback Ryan Finley, and receiver Kelvin Harmon. They played Texas A&M in the Gator Bowl and got blown out, 52-13, with notable play from Kellen Mond where he got a 62-yard touchdown run early in the game. And NC State did not score at all in the second half. Let's see. Reggie Gillespie only runs for 79 yards. Ryan Finley throws 2 interceptions. And Texas A&M running back Travion Williams runs for 236 yards and 3 touchdowns. So pretty ugly game for these guys, these last career games. And it's just kind of left a sour mark that led to a 4-8 record in 2019, so no bowl game there. And 2020, no bowl game that season either because of COVID. It was scheduled the Holiday Bowl against UCLA, but got canceled the Thursday before that game. All right. But they do play in the Gator Bowl again, now officially the it was always called the Taxslayer Gator Bowl, but the 76 Gator Bowl. NC State returns to play the 4-6 Kentucky Wildcats. So, you should expect NC State to win, especially since they had 8 wins heading into the game. But, you'd be surprised. NC State would lose that game. The Russian game by Kentucky with Asim Rose and Chris Rodriguez Jr. outdid our Russian game with Sonovan Knight and Jordan Houston. I think Asim Rose got MVP. Travion Williams got MVP of the last one. And this year's MVP was, Asim Rose and Sonovan Knight. Let's see. Sonovan Knight would run for 52 yards and a touchdown compared to Asim Rose's 148. I think Chris Rodriguez was able to knock down a few touchdowns, which is why I mentioned him. Let's see, where is the show? Yeah, Chris Rodriguez was in the second quarter, and in the fourth quarter, he got 2 rushing touchdowns. Bailey Hawkman was the quarterback. He throws 3 interceptions, which is just egregious. I mean, that's what loses you football games, giving up 3 interceptions. And I'm not sure which one of those turn into touchdowns. I didn't think to look that up. But either way, 3 interceptions will definitely turn into a score at some point. And that's just you can't win football games when you play like that. In 2022, NC State would play Maryland in the 2022 Duke's Mayo Bowl. With let's see, I think this was early in Tualia Tungavailoa was creator, and you can tell because he throws as many interceptions as Ben Finley, the NC State quarterback, does with two, but he gets the extra touchdown halfway through the second quarter. Jordan Houston runs for 14 yards on nine carries, totaling for about what is that 27 team rushing yards for NC State University. And this game ultimately became a battle of the kickers as you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 field goals. Let's see. NC State kicker Christopher Dunn, who has been jumping around the UFL. I was checking to see where he's at. He's still at the UFL. He kicks 1, 2, 3, 4 field goals compared to Chad Ryland's 3 field goals. But that touchdown is the difference maker to give Maryland the win 16-12. Let's see. I think who gets the MVP of that? Defensive back Shokarian Bennett, the defensive back from Maryland, he was able to get the game-winning or game-clinching interception late in the game, which, as I mentioned, the second of Ben Finley's two. And only notable receiving performance would be from Thayer Thomas with 54 reception yards on 4 receptions. I had to mention that just because, Thayer Thomas was a good tight end for us up until, Justin Jolly shows up next season. Let's see. The 2023 Pop-Tart Bowl led by Brennan Armstrong. Hey, that's a quarterback name right there. Pop-Tart Bowl versus Kansas State. And this was like when Kansas State was like really good. I think this is DJ get in. So I think this is after the Deuce Vaughn years. Let's see. Brennan Armstrong would throw for 1 interception and 50% completion rate. Avery Johnson is able to dominate, however. He would get, 2 throwing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. Let's see. DJ Giddens would run and catch one as well. So it's those two taking a lead. Let's see. Yeah, Giddens has 1 rushing touchdown and 1 passing touchdown. Brennan Armstrong does run in for a 31-yard touchdown, but of course throws an interception, and it is just too little, too late as Kansas State leads 21-10 into halftime and was able to clinch it late into the game. NC State never takes a lead in this game. The MVP, Avery Johnson, who is still at Kansas State. Good for him. And now, last year, you have the 2024 Go Bowling Military Bowl against the East Carolina Pirates, which I'm sure you guys remember this literally just happened. NC State was able to get the lead 9 minutes left in the game off of a Hollywood Smothers 33-yard touchdown reception. But Rajay Harris, 86-yard touchdown within the 2-minute warning to take over the game and the win for ECU. Some more things to know about. Quarterback Kateen Hauser runs for 2 touchdowns to help keep the lead away from NC State up until that later part of the game. This is our first decent quarterback performance in a bowl game for in a while. CJ Bailey would throw 3 touchdowns and 1 interception with 19 completions off 26 throws, but it's not enough compared to Kateen Hauser's 2 interceptions. ECU was still able to carry out the win in this game. Now, one thing that is noticeable in every bowl game is that NC State would go entire quarters without scoring. In 2018, they didn't score at all in the second half. In 2021, all through the first half without scoring. NC State, in 2022, they did have all-around scoring, but only field goals, no touchdowns. In 2023, they would have the first and last quarter with no scores, and it would while they did get a touchdown in the second, third quarters, it would just they didn't get enough essentially. And in last year, first and third quarters without scoring, it took until late in the game for NC State to start scoring consistently, and it took a huge pass, a huge rush. No, it is a pass. I don't know why I keep thinking rush from Hollywood Smothers to help NC State get over the hump for about 8 game time minutes. Another thing to notice is that NC State also gets outdone a lot in getting first downs. See, A&M had 3 more. It was equal in that NC State Kentucky Gator Bowl. 17-13 for the Mayo Bowl. 22-17 in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and in the Military Bowl, 22-21 for ECU's favor. So one big thing to note is that regardless of possession time, NC State just does not make the plays when it matters. It doesn't get a first down. It doesn't get as many touchdowns. And that results in losing football games. And while I don't think this is a pattern that is crazy, that's common indicators for losing games is not getting as many first downs and not scoring when it matters, regardless of time of possession. But you see, even just like 2023, there's a minute in difference for time of possession, but Kansas State still got 5 extra first downs, 9 extra plays. It's just, they're not doing what they need to do to win, to get those first downs and to get those touchdowns. And while I don't have third down statistics for most of them, the Duke's Mayo Bowl, for instance, third down efficiency, only 5 third downs were completed with 18 attempts compared to Maryland's 10 of 21, which is still twice as many first downs given to Maryland. And if they completed just half of those, they would have less first downs than NC State. So it's just, they got to get those third downs. They got to get those fourth downs. And they've got to make big touchdown plays. And not even big in terms of yardage, because they can bust out for big yards like that Brendan Armstrong 31-yard rushing touchdown. Hollywood Smothers, big reception. Let's see. You get it. I'm not crazy. It's just, they aren't doing enough in these bowl games to win, and I think that is going to help get Dave Doeren on the hot seat as they also kind of start having decreasing in quality. I guess the Mayo Bowl and the Pop-Tart Bowl are relatively equal quality. Maybe the Pop-Tart Bowl is a little better, but going from the Pop-Tart Bowl to the Military Bowl, no hate. is not something that NC State's won. I hope that they're able to make a big bounce back into a better bowl game. However, if they cannot, that is when I think Dave Dolan will get into the hot seat, especially with the kind of safe moves that he's been making and the fact that he has to change his defensive scheme of 10 years. Well, not 10 years. For like most of his time there, he has been using a 3-3-5 front, but now it's not working. So now we're switching over to a 3-4 front, hybrid front, which may or may not work out, especially if we can't find that perfect hybrid player, which I'm not sure Travali Price will be. I think with training camp, we will eventually find who that player is going to be. I just mentioned Travali Price and those linebackers, Sean Brown and Devon Betty, because those guys are the ones who are producing the most. I think Travali Price is listed as an edge, but can also play defensive tackle. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. It's a brand new defense, essentially, and an offense that is hoping to make a big step forward for its quarterback. It's going to be interesting to see how this regular season goes. And for next week, I will be going over some of the good draft prospects and some of the question marks on who could be good draft prospects for this team. And I'll be also going over the 2005 men's basketball season. I think these next two episodes are going to be semi-fluff or just kind of going into the women's soccer season, as that would be coming up. And next week, there will especially be the scrimmage game. It might be a couple of days late, but we'll get that for sure. And that will be it for today's episode. I hope you had a good listen. I hope you have a good day. Go Pack. Hope I'm not ending this a little too abruptly, but hope you enjoyed today's video. Next week, we'll be going a little bit more into women's soccer and the NFL draft coverage for NC State for 2026. And if we have time, we'll be also going over a little-known March Madness run for NC State that is facing its 21-year anniversary. So, I hope, as I mentioned, I hope you enjoyed listening to today's video. Hope you have a good rest of the day, and go Pack.